Hello everyone, this is Shivani Surve. I am currently working as an assistant professor. I have completed my bachelor's and master's degree in forensic science, wherein I have specialized in forensic biology and serology. Today I would be explaining you all the human female reproductive system. I would be explaining the different parts as well as the functions of those different parts of the human female reproductive system. The human female reproductive system has been divided into two different sections. One would comprise of the internal female genitalia and the other section would comprise of the external female genitalia. So we would be studying the different parts of the internal female genitalia as well as the external female genitalia. The human female reproductive system is going to help in a number of different processes which occur inside a human female body. So the different parts of the human female reproductive system would help in the process of gametogenesis, which refers to the process of formation of gametes. It would also help in the process of ovulation, which refers to the release of the egg or ovum from the ovary. It would also help in the process of fertilization of the male and the female gametes. And it would also help in the process of pregnancy, birth and childcare. So in general, the human female reproductive system is going to help to carry out a number of different processes. The human female reproductive system has been divided into two different parts or sections. One part would comprise of the internal female genitalia and the other part would comprise of the external female genitalia. Genitalia refers to reproductive organs. So here internal female genitalia mainly would comprise of the internal female reproductive organs. Organs or structures which are situated or located internally inside the body. External female genitalia would comprise of the external female reproductive organs, meaning those parts which are seen externally on the outer surface of the human female body. So first I would be explaining the internal female genitalia, then it would be followed by the external female genitalia. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the internal as well as external female genitalia, which are a part of the human female reproductive system. In case of a human female body, the internal genitalia are going to be comprised of many different parts or structures such as a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviduct, uterus, which is also known as womb, cervix, which is a part of the uterus, and vagina. The very first part which I would be explaining with respect to the internal female genitalia is the ovary. Ovaries exist in the form of a pair and they are the primary female reproductive organs. As you all can see in this particular image, these are the pair of ovaries which are considered to be the primary female reproductive organs. Ovaries are ovoid or almond-shaped structures located on either sides of the uterus. Each ovary is going to be around 3 cm long, 1.5 cm wide and 1 cm thick. Each and every ovary is going to be attached by its narrow end to the lateral body wall in the pelvic region by a double fold of peritoneum called mesovarium. The ovaries are also going to be attached to the uterus by thick ovarian ligaments. Ovaries are considered to be the primary female reproductive organs because they produce the female gamete in humans called egg or ovum, and they also produce and secrete the hormones called progesterone and estrogen. Each and every ovary is going to be covered with a thin epithelium that would enclose the ovarian stroma. Ovarian stroma refers to the matrix of the ovary, which is divisible into two regions. The outer peripheral region of the ovarian stroma would be called cortex, and the inner region would be termed as medulla. After ovaries, the next part with respect to the internal female genitalia refers to the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is also known as oviduct. The fallopian tube refers to the tube which actually extends from the ovary up to the uterus, and it actually opens up into the uterus. Oviducts or fallopian tubes are a pair of muscular tubes which are present above and on either sides of the uterus. They are around 10 to 12 centimeters in length. The fallopian tube has been divided into three different regions. The initial broad funnel-shaped part of the fallopian tube near to the ovary would be termed as infundibulum. This free end of the fallopian tube near the infundibulum would have numerous finger-like projections called fimbriae. So these finger-like projections called fimbriae, they are actually going to collect the egg or ovum released by the ovary, and then that egg would be swept further into the fallopian tube. So the initial broad and funnel-shaped part of the fallopian tube is termed as infundibulum. The middle dilated part of the fallopian tube is called ampulla, and the third narrow part of the fallopian tube is called isthmus, which eventually opens up into the uterus. The fallopian tube is also known as uterine tube because it actually connects to the uterus, and it is called oviduct because it is connected to ovary through one end. The fallopian tube is going to collect the ovum released by the ovary, and then it is going to be transported further into the uterus. So the fallopian tube is going to perform many different functions. The very first would be maturation of the ovum. So the egg or ovum that is released by the ovary, it is going to undergo certain developmental changes or maturation inside the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube would also act as the site of fertilization of the female gamete called egg and the male gamete called sperm. After fertilization of the male and the female gamete, zygote would be formed, which would undergo certain developmental changes to form the embryo. So the initial embryonic development would also occur inside the fallopian tube. Then the next part of the internal female genitalia refers to the uterus. Uterus is an inverted pear-shaped muscular organ which is around 8 cm long, 5 cm wide and 2 cm thick. The uterus is actually divisible into three different regions. The broad upper dome-shaped part of the uterus would be termed as fundus. The middle portion of the uterus would be called as body or corpus, and the lower narrow cylindrical portion of the uterus would be called as cervix. The cervix communicates with the body above by an aperture called internal OS, and the cervix will communicate with the vagina below by an aperture called external OS. The wall of the uterus, meaning the uterine wall, is going to be made up of three different layers. The inner, highly vascular and glandular layer would be termed as endometrium. It is considered to be vascular and glandular because it comprises of a very large number of blood vessels and glands. The middle thick muscular layer would be termed as myometrium, and the outer peritoneal layer would be termed as perimetrium. So the fallopian tubes actually open up into the body of the uterus at its left and right lateral angles. The uterus is also going to help in a number of different processes. The very first would be the uterus would receive the embryo from the fallopian tube. So it would help in the implantation of the embryo in the endometrial layer of the uterine wall. The uterus is also going to form the placenta during pregnancy, and it will also nourish the embryo throughout the fetal development. The uterus would also undergo certain cyclic changes, which would be referred to as the menstrual cycle, and uterus would also help in the process of childbirth. The cavity inside the uterus would be termed as uterine cavity. Then the next part of the internal female genitalia refers to vagina. Vagina is a thin-walled, highly distensible fibromuscular tube. It is considered to be thin-walled because the epithelial tissue which makes up the vagina internally, it is very thin layer, and it is highly distensible, meaning it has a very good stretching capacity, and it is a fibromuscular tube, meaning made up of fibrous structures, and it would also have muscular tissue which would make the vagina muscular. This tube-like structure called vagina actually extends from the cervix. Vagina is around 7.5 centimeters to 10 centimeters in length. The inner layer or the inner epithelium of the vagina is going to have certain transverse folded structures or transverse folds called rugae. This inner epithelial layer of the vagina is going to be having epithelial cells, and those cells actually secrete glycogen. So the glycogen secreted by the vaginal epithelial cells would get fermented by the bacteria which are normally found to be present in vagina. So fermentation of the glycogen secreted by the vaginal epithelial cells would lead to the production of lactic acid, and that is why the environment inside the vagina is considered to be acidic. So the secretion which is given out by vagina, it is considered to be acidic in nature. The main function of vagina is that it acts as a copulatory passage, and it receives the penis and the sperms during the process of copulation. Vagina would also help in the passage for menstrual flow during menstrual cycle, and it would also help in the process of childbirth, that is delivery of a baby. So this is all about the internal female genitalia, which mainly comprises of the pair of ovaries, pair of oviducts, uterus and vagina. So as I had explained with the help of that particular image, that oviducts are known as the fallopian tubes, which are going to receive the egg or the ovum released by the ovary and then transported further into the uterus. The oviduct is going to be divided into three different regions: infundibulum, ampulla and isthmus. Then the uterus is also known as the womb, and it is referred to as the inverted pear-shaped structure, which would perform different functions with respect to the implantation of the embryo. It would also undergo certain cyclic changes called menstrual cycle, and it would also help in the process of delivery, meaning childbirth. So the uterus also has been divided into three different regions: fundus, body and the cervix. The uterine wall is also made up of three different layers called endometrium, which is the innermost, myometrium is the middle, and perimetrium is the external layer. And then lastly, the part of the uterus actually is the cervix, which refers to the narrow cylindrical part of the uterus, which is the lower portion of the uterus, and the cavity of the cervix would be termed as the cervical canal. And then the last part of the internal female genitalia refers to the vagina, which is a fibromuscular tube which extends from the cervix, and it is actually going to have certain epithelial cells which would secrete glycogen, which would get fermented by bacteria present in vagina, and that is how the vaginal secretions would become acidic in nature. So the main function of vagina is to act as a copulatory passage, which would receive the penis and the sperm during copulation, and it would also help as a passage for the menstrual blood to be discharged out of the body, and it would also help in the process of childbirth. So then the next topic with respect to the female reproductive system is the external female genitalia. So external female genitalia, as I had said before, they actually comprise of the external female reproductive organs. Organs are structures which could be seen externally on the outer surface of the human female body. So external female genitalia comprise of mainly vulva, hymen, vestibular gland and mammary glands. So starting with the external female genitalia, the very first part of the same is vulva. So vulva refers to the external female genitalia, which comprises of labia majora, labia minora, mons pubis and clitoris. So as you all can see in this particular image, this image refers to vulva, which refers to the external female genitalia. So it comprises of the mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora and clitoris. The opening of the urethra, which actually passes the urine, and the opening of the vagina, both these openings are going to lie in a median vertical depression called vestibule. Median meaning centrally located. So vestibule is a median vertically situated depression-like structure which is going to have the urethral opening and the vaginal opening. These two openings are going to be surrounded by two pairs of folds called labia minora and labia majora. Both labia majora and labia minora are muscular folds which are going to surround the two openings. As you all can see in this particular image, labia majora refer to this pair of folds which are considered to be large size. So this large sized pair of muscular folds is referred to as labia majora, and labia majora actually forms the boundary of the vulva. Labia majora are going to enclose small lip-like folds called labia minora. So inside the labia majora there is going to be a pair of small lip-like folds called labia minora. Posteriorly, meaning at the end, below, the folds called labia minora, they are going to join with each other posteriorly to form a raised structure called fourchette. So as you can see in this particular image here, this pair of folds called labia minora, they have joined together posteriorly and formed a raised structure called fourchette. Then the anterior part of the labia minora, meaning above the labia minora, anteriorly, there is going to be a structure named clitoris or glans clitoris. Clitoris is actually a small erectile tissue. It is the highly sensitive part of the vulva or the external female genitalia. And then lastly, the anterior bulged portion of fleshy tissue in the pubic region would be termed as mons pubis. So mons pubis would actually be located above these transverse folds called labia majora, and mons pubis would be termed as the anterior, meaning one which is located upwards. It is referred to as the anterior bulge of fleshy tissue in the pubic region. So the next part with respect to the external female genitalia refers to hymen. So as you all can see in this image, this refers to the urethral opening. This refers to the opening of the vagina. These are going to be present in a median vertical depression called vestibule, and the two openings are going to be surrounded by two pairs of muscular folds called labia minora, which are the lip-like folds, and then labia minora are going to be surrounded by large sized folded structures called labia majora. And then anteriorly above the labia minora, we have the small erectile tissue present called clitoris, which is the highly sensitive part. Then the opening of the vagina or vaginal orifice is actually partially covered by a membranous tissue called hymen. So hymen is actually a partial covering of tissue which would actually cover partially the vaginal orifice or opening of vagina. This particular hymen is actually torn during the first sexual intercourse or coitus. Sometimes the hymen might actually get ruptured or broken by activities other than sexual intercourse, such as in case of those females who actually participate in horse riding or some intense physical activities such as cycling, or in certain cases wherein if any particular female suddenly falls, or in certain cases wherein any kind of an object has been inserted into the vagina, such as the insertion of a vaginal tampon during the process of a menstrual cycle. So most of the times it would mainly be broken down or torn, meaning the hymen would get torn or broken down, or it would get ruptured during the first sexual intercourse. But there are certain other exceptional cases wherein the hymen would get ruptured, such as wherein the girls would be engaged in any kind of certain physical activities such as horse riding, or due to certain kind of sudden fall onto this region of the body of that particular female. In certain cases, this partial tissue which actually covers up the vaginal opening, it might even persist even after sexual intercourse in certain females. The hymen is considered to be an indication of the virginity of a particular female. But as I told you all that eventually it's not necessary that every time we can confirm that the hymen has actually been ruptured because of sexual activity. It might be due to these other activities also. So that is why the presence or absence of hymen would not be considered to be a reliable factor to determine the virginity of a female. Then the next part with respect to the external female genitalia refers to the vestibular glands or Bartholin's glands. So with respect to this image, vestibular glands or Bartholin's glands, they are present on either sides of the vaginal opening. And in case of the male reproductive system, there are glands present called bulbourethral glands or Cowper's glands. So the secretion of the bulbourethral glands in males acts as a lubricant during the process of copulation. So in this case also, the vestibular glands or Bartholin's glands, they are also going to give out a secretion which is going to act as a lubricant during the process of copulation. So the Bartholin's glands in females and the Cowper's glands in males are homologous to each other, meaning they function similarly because both the glands are going to secrete a fluid that is going to act as a lubricant. So this is all about vestibular glands, which are also known as Bartholin's glands. Then the part with respect to the external female genitalia is mammary gland. Mammary glands are actually a pair of glands situated in the pectoral region on the ventral thoracic wall. So mammary glands are actually located in the chest region or the thoracic region of a female, and they are actually a pair of glands mainly located in the pectoral region. So mammary glands are going to be made up of lactiferous glands, meaning which are going to help to produce milk, and mammary glands would also be made up of fatty connective tissue. So mammary glands are made up of lactiferous glands which will help in the production of milk, and they also comprise of fatty connective tissue made up of fats or fatty cells. These lactiferous glands are going to have 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts which would open up at the base of the nipple. So the lactiferous glands would have 15 to 20 lactiferous duct-like structures or tubes which would open up at the base of the nipple, as you all can see in this particular image. This would be the base of the nipple, and the lactiferous glands would have lactiferous ducts, and those ducts actually open up at the base of the nipple. These lactiferous ducts, as you all can see in this image, these are the duct-like structures, and they actually enlarge or they dilate just beneath the nipple, and they are going to form lactiferous sinuses, and in those lactiferous sinuses actually milk is stored. So the 15 to 20 lactiferous ducts which arise from the lactiferous glands, they open up at the base of the nipple. These lactiferous ducts, they are actually going to expand, or they are going to get enlarged or dilate just beneath the nipple, and those dilated or expanded structures would be termed as lactiferous sinuses. So these actually refer to those dilated or expanded structures called lactiferous sinuses, and in these dilated parts called lactiferous sinuses, milk is going to be stored, which is known as the breast milk. So mammary glands are also known as breasts, and that is why the milk which is stored inside them would be termed as the breast milk. Then nipple is considered to be the apical raised portion of the mammary gland. Why is it termed as apical? Because it is situated anteriorly, at the apex basically of this particular region, as you all can see. So nipple is considered to be the apical raised portion of the mammary gland. Nipple is going to be surrounded by a circular dark brown region which is called areola. So this nipple, which is the raised structure, it is going to be surrounded by a dark brown circular region called areola. The mammary glands, which are also known as breasts, they would secrete a nutritional fluid which I already told you all called milk or breast milk under the influence of prolactin and oxytocin. So eventually, as and when a woman proceeds throughout the different phases of her pregnancy and after the delivery of the baby, the mammary glands actually secrete a nutritious fluid called milk under the influence of two hormones called prolactin and oxytocin. So that milk would actually be used to feed the baby or the young one. So this was all about the different parts of the external female genitalia. So we have covered up the different organs of the human female reproductive system, which comprises of the internal female genitalia and external female genitalia. So under internal female genitalia, we studied the different parts such as the pair of ovaries, pair of oviducts, uterus and vagina. Internal female genitalia refers to those female reproductive organs which are located internally inside the body of the female. Next, I explained the external female genitalia, which refers to those reproductive organs which are located externally, meaning which could be seen externally on the outer side of the body of a female. So under external female genitalia, we studied the different parts such as vulva. Vulva comprises of labia majora, labia minora, clitoris. Then next we studied about hymen, followed by the vestibular glands, also known as Bartholin's glands, and then lastly we studied about the mammary glands. So this was all about the different external as well as internal reproductive organs found in case of the human female reproductive system. So we have completed the topic called human female reproductive system, wherein we studied the different parts of the human female reproductive system along with the functions of those different parts. So this is the end of this particular topic. Thank you.